It has been an historic 24 hours in sports after multiple teams and leagues suspended games and practices, of course, following the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin.
MARIEL CARBONE is about to explain how Cincinnati teams are handling this shooting. But first, let's get you updated on what's actually happening in Kenosha. Overnight, protests remain peaceful in the city. There have not been any reports of violence or property damage. Police identified the officer who shot Jacob Blake as Rustin Chesky, who has been in the department 7 years. Police say Blake admitted to having a knife, but police did not explain why they tried arresting him or whether or not Blake tried to use that knife. And they did not mention his children in the back of the car. The 17-year-old who shot 2 protesters is charged with first-degree intentional homicide. Meanwhile, Jacob Blake remains hospitalized. The Department of Justice says it is opening a civil rights probe into this shooting.
And as you know, the sports world reacted sharply to Blake's shooting, first with the Milwaukee Bucks deciding not to play their playoff game with the Orlando Magic yesterday. 2 other NBA games were postponed shortly thereafter. Other teams quickly did the same. The Brewers postponed their game against the Reds last night. The NBA and the WNBA are postponing its games again tonight. The Oakland Athletics won't play its series finale against Texas in a show of support either. At least 4 NFL teams have canceled their practices today as well.
So you're hearing from the professional sports teams, but there's also been some blowback, specifically from fans. MARIEL CARBONE is live from Great American Ballpark. And MARIEL, what is some of the criticism and how are players responding to that today?
Well, just looking on WCPO's Facebook comments about the Reds not playing last night, some of them read like this. I've been done with sports. This only supports my feelings. They need to protest on their own time. And then there are multiple commenters just criticizing the salary that these athletes make. Now, I spoke to an expert today who tells me anytime there is a protest about civil rights or social justice that you can expect some pushback like this, even if it's peaceful. But that doesn't mean that people should stand down and not still take that stand. Bats went silent last night as Major League Baseball teams, including the Reds, postponed games in solidarity with the NBA. The sports world was protesting the police shooting of Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man, and standing with protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where it all happened.
There's no form of protest that white supremacy will sanction.
With that decision came criticism on social media, which some say is to be expected.
If you take a knee, whether you raise a fist, whether you march in the street.
Christopher Miller is a senior director at the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. He says historically, athletes and entertainers have always played a big role in social justice reform.
They are fathers, the sons, and they are succumbed to the same issues, the social inequities.
Because they're human.
You get emotional. We shouldn't be in this position.
For Reds pitcher Amir Garrett, the decision not to play
So it was like a weight off my shoulders.
was the right one. He says it was a big step for the baseball community.
We were making people feel uncomfortable. They didn't get that luxury of seeing a ball game yesterday, and a lot of people were upset about it. But guess what? There's a lot of other people upset about a lot of other things that are going on in the world.
And that's what it was all about, making people feel uncomfortable.
Boston Tea Party was not a comfortable situation. They were throwing stuff into the river. And this is a foundation that we glorify that protest, glorify the civil rights movement. But yet, during that time period, people were arrested. People were spit on. In generations to come, they will be applauded and respected.
And Miller says with some of these games canceled that you aren't able to watch on TV right now, you can use that time instead of tuning in to pick up a book and look through some of the history, learn about the history of civil rights, past and present. Reporting live from the ballpark, MARIEL CARBONE, WCPO 9 News.